Hey, where on earth are you right now? It's despicable for a wife to neglect chores.
My husband Ben shouted angrily over the phone. Who does he think he is? I sighed, but still answered my husband's question. Don't tell me you still haven't noticed. My name is Diana, a 30-year-old housewife. I've been married to my husband Ben for 2 years. We met through a friend's introduction. At that time, I had just been dumped by my longtime boyfriend, so I was in a vulnerable state. My friend, considering my situation, introduced him to me. Ben had a face that I liked, and he had a stable income as an office worker. We had many common topics due to being the same age, and we spent really enjoyable time together. We were attracted to each other and eventually started dating. After about 2 years of dating, he proposed to me. I need you, Diana. I want you to be with me forever. Will you marry me? Yes, I'd be happy to. At that time, I thought his proposal words were words of love. But later, I would come to know that it wasn't the case. Nice to meet you. I'm Diana. Hello, I'm Ben's mother. I'm sorry for being in a wheelchair like this. Oh, please, don't worry about that at all. His mother needed care and was living in a wheelchair. My father-in-law passed away a few years ago due to illness, and Ben currently lives at his parents' house to support her.
Basically, we've hired helpers for my mom's care, but there are often communication difficulties, you know? That's why I'm really happy that Diana is willing to take care of you, Mom.
What? Is Diana going to take care of me? My mother-in-law was surprised by his statement. Well, it's understandable to be surprised when you're suddenly told something like that during the marriage introduction. When we got married, I had agreed with my husband that I would become a full-time housewife and take care of his mother. I loved him enough to believe I could do anything for him.
Oh, I appreciate your help, Diana. Thank you so much.
My mother-in-law was happy to know that I would be taking care of her. Although Ben is an only child, it seems that my mother-in-law had wanted a daughter as well. After our marriage began and the caregiving started, my mother-in-law treated me very well. This is the easiest way to slice it. You're right. The seasoning can be kept simple like this. If you simmer it slowly, the vegetables will bring out their delicious flavor. That's true. It's incredibly delicious. It felt like I was having a genuine interaction between a real mother and daughter, and it made me happy. Please think of me as your real daughter.
Yes, I already do, Diana.
My mother-in-law and I had a great relationship. She was lovely, kind, and knowledgeable. She taught me various things, starting with cooking. I envied my husband, who had been eating such delicious food from his mother all this time. I used to be someone who loved work, but the time spent with my mother-in-law was so fulfilling that I thought being a full-time housewife was also good. However, our married life itself wasn't going very well. Hi, Ben. Welcome back. Do you want dinner or would you like to take a bath? Huh? Ignoring me? Okay, whatever. Since getting married, my husband had become incredibly cold towards me. He rarely initiated conversations with me, so I was always the one trying to come up with topics and asking questions. In response, my husband would give 1 or 2 word answers, and then spend the rest of the time engrossed in his smartphone. I was perplexed by my husband's sudden change in attitude. During our dating phase, he used to try to make me happy and would initiate conversations on his own. But now, It seemed like even talking to me was bothersome for him. Even during meals, my husband remained quiet. So ultimately, I ended up talking with my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law also seemed to have some doubts about my husband's behavior.
I'm sorry, dear. I thought he would be more talkative.
No, it's okay. I think he's just busy with work right now. This should be the busy season, if I remember correctly.
I see. He must be busy then. But if it continues like this for too long, I'll talk to him myself, okay?
Thank you.
I don't want to let go of someone like you, who is like a daughter to me.
I'm glad you say that. Having my mother-in-law on my side was truly comforting. I had no idea why my husband had become distant, so I could only attribute it to his busy work schedule. His attitude towards me remained unchanged. There were times when I wouldn't even hear his voice for days. I tried my best to make time for my husband, but he never became more positive. In this state, it was impossible for us to have any intimacy at night, and we had hardly engaged in any physical intimacy since getting married. I wanted to show grandchildren to my mother-in-law soon, but with this situation, it seemed impossible to have children. Months passed, but my husband's attitude didn't change. One day, perhaps sensing the seriousness of the situation, my mother-in-law expressed her concerns to my husband.
Ben, you were married to Diana. Shouldn't you communicate more as a married couple?
My husband widened his eyes in surprise when my mother-in-law scolded him. After contemplating for a moment, he spoke up.
Is that so? I thought I was being natural. Diana, have you been feeling uneasy all this time?
Well, I did notice a change in your behavior compared to before we got married. I answered honestly. My husband said I understand. What exactly did he understand? Does this mean he will start having proper conversations with me? Both my mother-in-law and I were left uncertain, and the conversation ended. The next morning.
Okay, I'm off.
After having breakfast, my husband said that and left the house. My mother-in-law and I exchanged surprised glances. Just the fact that my husband initiated a conversation after a long time made me happy. It seemed like he had heard my mother-in-law's words. When he came back from work that day, he greeted us with "I'm home" and actively participated in a conversation during dinner. My mother-in-law seemed relieved and happy, engaging in the conversation. Married life involves many ups and downs, and we have to accept various aspects of each other. There are many challenges, but I realized the importance of expressing my feelings honestly. From then on, my husband started having normal conversations with me. However, just as my relationship with my husband improved, my mother-in-law's health deteriorated. While she used to be active even in a wheelchair, she became bedridden.
Diana, I am truly sorry. Taking care of an old and helpless person like me must be tough, right?
What are you talking about? If it was that difficult, I would have run away by now. I'll take care of you, so please, don't worry.
Thank you.
There were times when I had to leave her alone when going grocery shopping. During such times, I would become extremely worried if something happened to her or if she had a fall. And when my mother-in-law became bedridden, my husband's attitude changed once again. Ben, your mom seems a little unwell today.
I see.
She's okay for now after eating, but maybe it's better to take her to the hospital again.
Yeah.
My husband started giving vague responses, as if he was half listening to my words. And once again, Our conversations became less frequent. I was genuinely struggling with all of this. Taking care of a bedridden mother-in-law was undeniably challenging. On top of that, being treated with the same cold attitude from my husband as before was too much to bear. I was mentally exhausted. In the midst of all this, my mother-in-law finally needed to be hospitalized. Her condition deteriorated rapidly, and I visited her every day. But I must admit, I felt a sense of relief that I was released from the caregiving responsibilities, despite feeling guilty about it. Thank you, Diana. You are the reason I was able to spend the past 6 months happily and contentedly. Please take care of Ben for me, okay? My mother-in-law said that and took her last breath. I was devastated to lose her. Even though my husband claimed he couldn't leave work, he didn't come to the hospital when his mother was in critical condition. Your mother passed away peacefully. I see. I'm sorry I couldn't come. But with you by her side, I'm sure my mom was happy. While my husband said that, from my mother-in-law's perspective, the person she wanted to see the most in her final moments was her own son, my husband. Soon after, my mother-in-law's funeral took place. But my husband, citing his busy schedule, left the funeral preparations to me. With a sense of distrust towards my husband, I prepared for the funeral. My husband did fulfill his duties as the chief mourner, and the funeral proceeded smoothly. However, our married life after that was miserable. My husband remained silent as ever, and he hardly had any conversation even when he was at home. Whenever I tried to talk to him, he would just give brief responses. I couldn't help but question if this could truly be called a marriage. As a housewife, my husband was the only person I had conversations with. I felt suffocated. That's why I decided to consult with him about something. Hey, now that your mother is gone, I have some time, so can I go back to work? My husband looked surprised at my statement, but replied, It's okay, I guess. I immediately started looking for a job, and I found a suitable office job with the good conditions, so I decided to apply. Since I had previous experience working as an office employee, I was hired for the position. Moreover, they hired me as a full-time employee, not just a part-time worker. It was enjoyable to be back working as an employee after a long time. My coworkers were very kind and patiently taught me the job, which helped me adapt quickly. Everyone praised my work, and even my boss complimented me, saying they were glad they hired me. Having interaction with people other than my husband was beneficial for my mental well-being. Above all, it was very gratifying to be recognized by those around me. I had felt that when I was alone with my husband at home, I wasn't being appreciated as a person. Since I was managing both work and household chores efficiently, my husband didn't complain. However, his attitude remained cold as ever. Even when I talked about my work, he would just give vague responses. Eventually, he stopped responding at all, not even offering a brief reply. I wished he would at least respond. It made me feel like he was completely ignoring me. What could he possibly be thinking? I couldn't believe his behavior, so I decided to seek advice from my colleagues. In times like this, I'm grateful that I went back to work. It's reassuring to have people I can consult with and who will listen to my complaints. And everyone was surprised when they heard my story. Whoa! Your husband is constantly ignoring you? Yeah. We had very little conversation since the early days of our marriage. But for the past few months, he hasn't spoken to me at all. I feel like I'm being treated like nothing.
What? Isn't that too terrible? My colleagues at work snided with me,
Saying that my husband was being awful. And one of them said something like this. This might be difficult to say, but is your husband having an affair?
What? An affair?
From what I've heard, Diana, you were not at fault. If that's the case, I think there must be something suspicious on your husband's side. When I heard that, I started suspecting my husband of having an affair for the first time. And once I started doubting, I became more and more suspicious. So I decided to hire a private investigator to investigate my husband. The investigation results come out in about 2 weeks. As expected, my husband was indeed having an affair. The other person involved was a colleague from his workplace, and according to the investigation, they had been in a long-term relationship. That meant he had been having an affair even during the difficult times when I was taking care of my mother-in-law. I was filled with anger. My husband must have only seen me as a convenient housekeeper. I couldn't continue our marriage in this state. I quickly packed my things and left the house. I stayed at a business hotel for the time being. The next day, I went to the local government office to file for divorce. Then, while my husband was absent, I left the evidence photos of his affair on the living room table. This should make it clear that I'm serious about getting a divorce. He'll be in a panic when he sees the photos. Several days passed, but I didn't receive any contact from my husband. Well, if he doesn't contact me, it's fine by me. I absolutely intend to claim compensation for the affair, so I hope we can proceed with that. It was about a week after I left the house when I finally received a phone call from my husband.
Hey, where the hell are you right now? It's despicable of you, as a wife, to neglect your household duties.
My husband shouted angrily through the phone.
Who the hell does he think he is?
I responded to his question.
What?
Don't tell me you still haven't noticed? You and I are already finished. Haven't you seen the envelope on the table?
Huh? The envelope? Oh, this?
Look at it right now. Please.
Why do I have to be ordered around by you like that? Just come back home right away and do your chores.
I'm telling you. First, look inside the envelope, please. 'Cause it contains the evidence photos of your affair.
What?
My husband suddenly fell silent, and I heard rustling sounds, so he must be checking the contents of the envelope.
What the hell is this? Why are there these kind of photos?
I had them investigated by a PI. Well, I never imagined you were having an affair, but you did. Could it be that you were already involved with someone back when we got married? And that's why you were cold to me?
No way! What are you saying?
It seems like I hit the nail on the head. His voice was shaking. You married me with the intention of having me as a housekeeper, right?
That's not true.
Are you still trying to lie?
I really cared for you when we were dating. But after we got married, I somehow stopped feeling attracted to you. And then before I knew it, I ended up in that kind of relationship with a coworker.
I don't care about those excuses. I already know it's all bullshit. The truth is, I had gone to talk to a colleague who is a friend of my husband's and works at the same company as him. I thought he might take my husband's side, but he sensed my distress and sincerely listened to me. It seems
that my husband often talked about how he was married to me but had someone else he was serious about during drinking parties and such. That son of a bitch betrayed me. It seems like everyone was disgusted by your stories, you know? Did you know that you're actually quite disliked at work? That's a lie. Everyone interacts with me normally. That's because everyone is mature, right? You've always had a cold attitude towards me, even when I did nothing wrong. It's not normal to be able to do that. You're sick. Either way, divorce is inevitable. Diana? No. I'll also be seeking compensation, so be prepared.
When I shouted, my husband let out a pathetic voice over the phone. I hung up without worrying and demanded a divorce and compensation from my husband through my lawyer.
It seemed that my husband and his affair partner had been living it up, and they complained that they couldn't afford to pay the compensation. But I never gave in. I agreed to accept the payment in installments, and if there was any delay, I instructed my lawyer to garnish their wages. Upon hearing this, both my husband and his affair partner immediately became quiet and agreed to pay the compensation. However, my husband, who hadn't saved any money, struggled greatly with his finances. In that state, he couldn't find time to be with his affair partner, and their relationship ended. Additionally, since my husband's affair became public knowledge, people at his workplace started treating him harshly. However, my ex-husband felt trapped because he had to pay the compensation, but he couldn't quit his job. On the other hand, I moved to a lovely apartment for singles, and I am enjoying a comfortable life. My job is stable, and now I frequently invite friends over and host home parties. I'm enjoying the single life without unnecessary stress. Occasionally, I still think about my mother-in-law. She said, "Take care of my son," at the end. It's regrettable that I couldn't fulfill the promise with her. But considering what kind of man he was, it can't be helped. I'm sure my mother-in-law would forgive me in this situation. For now, I don't plan to pursuing romantic relationships or a marriage for a while. I want to focus on my work and achieve results. That's what I believe is necessary for my own happiness at the moment.